The Chaser Report is recorded on Gadigal land.
Striving for mediocrity in a world of excellence. This is The Chaser Report.
Hello and welcome to The Chaser Report with Dom and Charles. And Dom, you're looking incredibly handsome
It's
today.
about time, really.
Yeah.
It's taken a few years and several $1,000s, but we got there in the end.
Well, hang on. You're not Dom.
Oh, I always forget this.
You're Mark Humphries.
I'm Mark Humphries, yes.
From the 7:30 show.
Oh, I don't know if you've heard there's been a slight change of plans. 7:30.
Oh, right. They
So-
wanted to get rid of all the serious reporting.
So it's So
It's now just 100% satire.
It's me all the time. Yes, exactly. With a fortnightly sketch by Sarah Ferguson. She's very funny.
So there was a palace coup. They couldn't stand you. And
Oh, mate, I blame Murdoch. I blame.
What you should have done is you should have done what Russell Brand has been doing for the last sort of 9 months in preparation.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying I should have been doing what Russell Brand was doing 10 years ago.
No. I'm saying is prepare yourself by pivoting to the alt-right.
Yes.
In order to
that's
have
smart.
a sort of sailing boat once you get cancelled by...
Totally. I've played this all wrong.
Yeah, you played this all wrong.
I think you're absolutely right. I could have been the darling of the No campaign.
But the thing that Jenna Owen, the
Yes, of
person
course.
who we performed with a lot in the past, was saying yesterday about that whole Russell Brand thing was it's sort of like a chaser headline in a way because and I was trying to write the headline this morning going, oh no, but it's just actually true, right? Which is this guy is clearly tipped off that he's about to be exposed by the mainstream media for a whole lot of rapey activity that he's done, right? And so he pivots hard to this whole idea of, well, don't trust the mainstream media. It's sort of, and so inoculating his fan
sure.
base.
Yeah.
From like, oh, well, now it's a conspiracy. and then everyone's come out and like Andrew Tate has backed him.
Jordan
Elon
Peterson,
Musk.
yeah, exactly.
He's in really good company.
It's
there.
amazing. Yeah. It's funny that now, because I was talking to someone about this as well and just like, I don't think this will make any impact on him. I think like he's got his audience now and they are loyal. I think that's the environment we live in now, that you kind of, he's not going to get any more sort of BBC gigs, but I don't think he was doing those anyway. I think he sort of stepped away from that years ago. And now we're sort of in a situation where it kind of doesn't matter what you do, because as long as you're doing enough of the thing that your fan base likes you doing, so whether it be it, destroying democracy in Donald Trump's case or something, I'm not closely following Russell Brand's current, outlook,
But let's just say what a string of BBC celebrities have done over the years.
They've got a rich tradition. That's it. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's a great way of putting it.
Yeah.
What a legacy.
Yes. So anyway, let's not talk about that on today's show.
No,
Instead, we're gonna have an ad break in a sec, but before that, I'm gonna just pose to you a question so you can think about it during the ad break, which is, what would you do if you made $240 million in 100 days? Have you thought about it?
Well, although the listener has just heard an ad, I didn't hear an ad.
Oh, yeah,
you just
that's
went
true.
straight into the next segment. So I haven't really thought about it, but let's work with that.
Yeah.
So $240 million. So at the end of 100 days of working, suddenly there's $240
It's
million.
actually more like 102 days. Let's say. And it's actually it was $240 million. It now turns out it's probably more like about $310 million. But we'll get to that in a
This
sec.
story is falling apart by the second.
Yeah, but
The figure is now $500 million.
Yeah, it was sort of like between a quarter. Let's say $250 million. So like a $250 million. let's
Okay.
say.
So what would I
that's
do?
US. So it's like maybe 400 million Australian. What would you do with it?
What would I do with that money?
Yeah.
I've just always assumed I wouldn't have money, so I think
But what would you like? I know you're into cooking. Would you upgrade your kitchen?
Oh yes. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I'd have to ask the landlord first, but I'd buy a house.
You'd buy a
and then
house?
upgrade the kitchen.
Oh well, that's probably about
Yeah.
$400 million right there. Actually, you might need.
I might need a little
loan.
bit more.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes. No, I think I'd buy a house and then I'd go on a fat holiday, and that's really it. And then I'm quite prepared to die at this point. I don't really.
Yeah.
I think I've achieved most of what I wanted to do in life. So
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
that's
So
good.
a house, a holiday, and death.
Okay. Right. Well,
Why do you ask, Charles?
The reason I ask is because in the last 100 days, this hacking group called the Lazarus Group, I don't know, have you heard of them?
I've not. No.
They have made, well, they've hacked 4 big cryptocurrency exchanges and taken a total of $240 million US, right? And just like in the last couple of days, it's now merged that there is a 5th site which they seem to have hacked anywhere between like $55 million to $70 million. It's still sort of a little bit unclear, right? And what they've done is they've targeted these sort of crypto exchanges. There's Atomic Wallet, CoinsPad, Stake.com, CoinX. They're these sites. And what they are they're places where, I don't know, do you dabble in crypto?
I don't dabble in crypto, no.
But essentially...
I barely, I don't own a house. I don't dabble in real currency.
One of the problems with crypto is that you have to remember all the passwords. For
Oh,
all these.
yes.
And if you don't have the passwords, you lose the money, right? So you can't forget your PIN, right? And the actual sort of wallet IDs are like hundreds of characters long. So there's a whole problem with safely storing your money, right?
Wasn't this supposed to simplify currency?
Shut up. Anyway, so what has grown up is that people go, well, I don't want to do that. Why don't I hand the money over to a trusted institution like you would with your money to a bank and they can look after all that thing so it's all safe, right? And the whole point is all these trusted institutions are just literally like somebody on an iPad setting up a WordPress website, right? Like and so they don't know the first thing about banking security. And so if you're a sophisticated hacking group, like these Lazarus people are, who've been around for years, you just go, okay, well, I don't know, I'll guess the password of the admin who runs this site. And very quickly you can break in and you just steal everything. And there's no proper controls like there are, because it's all decentralized finance. It's all like literally once you have the password, that's all you need. You can just transfer the money anywhere. So it's the perfect grift, right?
I feel like you are half an hour away from abandoning the whole chase of the thing and just going into crypto hacking.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, well, it just seems so easy. It seems like, a fool's errand not to. Right? But the funny thing about this is, so the Lazarus Group have, as I said, been around for many, many years. Like they first rose to prominence sort of probably about 5 or 6 years ago. And we'll get to that in a second. But in 2020, they pivoted their activities. So they used to just go and hack these big companies and big organizations and things like that. And it wasn't just crypto. They were hacking like respectable companies. But then in 2020, they pivoted and 100% of their hacking started being these DeFi crypto sites. Do you know about DeFi?
This is a foreign language.
So the problem with the centralized exchanges is they kept on being hacked, right? Like that has happened in the last 100 days, right? And so for a while there were all these decentralized finance sites, right? Which was all about going, no, you shouldn't trust anyone with your actual passwords and details of these things because they'll just either lose it to hackers or they'll just run off with the money themselves. Like, for example, the FTX scandal where this guy got a whole lot of the money and pretended that he was investing it, but he was just spending the money and just stealing it, right? So decentralized finance was all around the idea of what we'll do is we'll create watertight, decentralized contracts. So essentially crypto versions of contracts where you give us your money and then we'll give you another password that locks that money in. So we can't actually do anything other than, like whoever's got the password to this contract about what's holding the money. That's the thing. So instead of having like tons of passwords, you've got like one central password that only you know that unlocks all your different contracts, right? So the reason why the Lazarus Group then decided, okay, that's the way to go, we're going to hack all those things, is because inside these blockchain contracts, essentially these sort of watertight contracts that meant that nobody could defraud you, there are a whole lot of just simple programming errors that made them extremely hackable really easily. So it's just been like manna from heaven. And there was this analysis which said every 4 days there was $36 million worth of these decentralized finance contracts just being hacked through errors, like people just spotting errors in the way they'd been constructed, which enabled them to sort of be stolen from.
Funneled through. Yeah. Great. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess to re-answer your original question, I guess I would spend the rest of my life in hiding. I think.
No, but you don't have to because it's all anonymous.
It's all anonymous.
Like this is the brilliance of these crypto things. You just wash through. There's a thing called wash trade where you just send it to hundreds of thousands of different email addresses over the course of a few seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone loses track of where the money has gone. And it takes years to track it, by which time, I don't know, you've bought yourself an island or something.
Sure. I've always thought the island thing was overrated, but that's...
Well, yeah. You bought yourself a new kitchen.
Yeah, thank you. Exactly. Yeah. A kitchen island, thank you.
Yeah. Very nice.
The Chaser Report. More news, less often.
So if you are on the other side of this hacking trade, I'll just reassure our listeners, if you...
So now you're asking me what would I do if I lost 200
million. Yeah,
202 days, right?
Yeah. The point is, it's all right because CoinX, which is the latest hacking victim, has suspended all the withdrawals from their accounts. They basically said, we don't have any
because
money
there's no
left.
money in there.
Yeah.
That's a great way of framing
But this morning they have assured customers that they will return their money to them in full.
And rest assured, we're now going to go hack somewhere else. That's the plan.
Yeah.
So do we believe that?
You can bank that. You can, go to the bank.
That's good.
Yeah.
You know what made me laugh recently is I was looking into something to do with superannuation recently, where I think AMP and another company had been found that some of their accounts, because there's now a benchmark, there's like a regulatory, I think it's a government imposed standard that superannuation funds now need to reach, and if they don't reach it, the actual fund, the actual company that you have your super in, is required to send you a letter which explicitly says, we advise you to change funds.
Oh, brilliant.
And I just thought what an extraordinary thing that would be to receive that letter. Just, dear Mr. Humphreys, hi, it's AMP, your superannuation fund. We advise you to not
bank with
us. So it just reminds me of getting that sort of letter. Like, we're going to get the money, but this is just sort of saying, no, just get out.
Yeah, just get out now. I'm glad the government hasn't got involved in regulating the satire industry. So I imagine that we would be required to write to all Chaser readers to go.
That's it. Gosh.
We advise you to swap satire providers immediately.
Everyone who has a Patreon is going to be really like, oh gosh.
The return on investment of your support for the Chaser, we calculate is 1 laugh per $1 million.
All right, well, that's tomorrow's article then.
The reveal to this is the Lazarus Group, right? So what would you do with the money? You'd use it to upgrade your kitchen.
That's what we've decided.
The Lazarus Group, what they do with the money is they give it all to the North Korean government.
Oh, I did not see that coming.
So the whole thing is, this elite, they're probably the best hackers in the world. They're the people who did the Sony hack back in 2018.
Oh, okay.
Over that Seth Rogen movie.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Of course, yes.
The Dictator, I think it was called. And it was...
Or was it called... No, well, The Dictator was the Sacha Baron Cohen.
Oh, no, yeah, you're right.
Yes.
What was it called? It was the one about the plot to kill Kim Jong-un.
But
the whole point was, and actually there's a really good podcast on the BBC called The Lazarus Heist, which is very worth listening to, far more coherent than this podcast. But it goes through the history and they talk to all the people, including at Sony, who had been hacked. And just the experience of realising all your mundane office emails are out on the dark web for everyone to pick over. And all the sort of gossip between executives about, what prima donnas, you remember that? All the celebrities were. There was just shit tons of just completely collateral damage done.
Right. Yes, sure.
Yeah.
But you've just hit on an interesting idea for a podcast, which is a poorly remembered retelling of some other podcast. So, it's like a recap podcast of Chat 10 Looks 3, and it's like Chat 3 Looks 3. And so then Lee said something about, I can't remember, but then Annabelle, that was very funny.
Yeah, well, obviously you're not acquainted with this podcast if you're pitching this as a new idea.
Yeah. No, because well, that's it. Because I actually host the recap podcast of this podcast, but I don't listen to this podcast, so that's
right,
where it falls over.
Yeah. So they give their money to the North Korean government, and so that's what it'll be used on. It'll be used on funding the activity. And $240 million in North Korea goes a long way.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, think of all the missiles they could fire into the ocean now.
So it's been a good week for North Korea.
About time.
They got the Russia arms deal. They're selling arms to Russia.
Good for them.
And they got $240 million.
I really did not see that North Korean twist coming. That's basically, if you don't secure your funds, you are funding totalitarian regimes.
Yeah.
So think about it.
Which is why if you're asking me what I would spend $240 million
Charles,
on,
what would you spend $240 million on?
I'd spend it on upgrading my internet security.
And now it's time for an ad for McAfee.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, we just usually email people about that. Yeah. Our gear is from Road. We are part of the Iconoclast Network. Catch you tomorrow.